My husband missed our daughter's birthday party for work, so I confronted him. He stormed out and didn't come back for days. Then he said something that changed everything. Never thought I would have to share my story on Reddit, but here I am, in sorrow, for some advice. I'm Maya, 32F, married to Derek, 34M, for the last 7 years, parent to a beautiful 5-year-old, Lily. Ours was a fairy tale marriage. Currently, it seems more of a nightmare from which we both can't wake up. Derek and I met at the Bonnaroo Music Festival 9 years ago. I was there with my roommates from college, celebrating our graduation. Derek was there with his work buds, blowing off steam after a big project. When we quite literally bumped into each other at this Kings of Leon concert, he spilled his beer all over my favorite band t-shirt. Then, in his haste to apologize, he tripped over his own feet and nearly fell. I caught him as we both resumed laughing. That moment, a shot of laughter shared in the middle of a crowded and chaotic concert, was magic. We spent the rest of the days of the festival together, talking about everything from our favorite bands to our dreams for the future. After the festival was over, we went back to dating long distance, me, new to Nashville and my first job as a graphic designer, and Derek, in Atlanta as a junior account manager at a marketing firm. We took turns visiting one another every other weekend, and those reunions were always sweet and passionate. We would take walks around our respective cities, check out new restaurants, go to local shows, and stay up all night talking about our hopes and plans. 1 year into the relationship, I was offered work in Atlanta. Feels like destiny. Derek and I lived together, and it was far from being tedious. We cooked dinner with each other while we danced around the kitchen to our favorite songs, had movie marathons on our couch during lazy Sundays, and prepared weekend trips to towns not so far away. A year afterward, Derek asked me to be his wife during a Bonnaroo festival, which he meant to be a total surprise. And it was perfect. Our first years of marriage were fantastic. We were both working in good occupations and had the opportunity to travel a lot. In those days, we enjoyed the time between the days together with friends during the game nights, going on spontaneous road trips, and volunteering at the local animal shelter. The two of us were totally over the moon when Lily was born. Derek, from the start, was an amazing father, more than ready to change a diaper or do a late-night feeding. We were sleep-deprived but cheerful, learning to be parents together. But things began going downhill when Derek got a huge promotion at work about 2 years ago. He became head of his department, something he'd been striving for years. And though, initially, I was very excited about his success, celebrating with a nice dinner and all that conversation about the new doors this could open up for him. The weeks went by, though, and I realized more and more that this promotion changed everything. But then Derek started working around the clock and traveling all the time. At first, I was very supportive, realizing what a big opportunity it was for him. I would send him encouraging texts when he needed to work late, and I would have dinner ready by the time he arrived home. But as time went on, I felt increasingly isolated, trying to manage my own job and take care of Lily. Where long hours used to be, there was missed dinner. Where occasional business trips used to be, now they occurred weekly. Our weekend getaways turned into Derek catching up on rest or preparing for his big week at work. Lily started asking why Daddy wasn't at her ballet recitals or her school events. I found myself making excuses for him, but it was getting harder to hide my own disappointment. I had tried talking to Derek about it a few times. I would wait until Lily was in bed and then mention my concerns very carefully. He would always brush them off, saying it was all temporary and that he was doing it for his family. He would promise to cut back on hours or be more present, but more often than not, those promises were easily forgotten in the face of another work crisis or big client. Things came to a head last year when I discovered I was pregnant again. In spite of that growing chasm between us, I was thrilled. I thought maybe this could be the kick in the pants we needed to get our priorities straight between us about family. I planned a special dinner to tell Derek, with his favorite meal and a tiny pair of baby shoes all wrapped up as a gift. It was 2 hours past the time I'd expected Derek home, and when he finally walked in the door, busy texting on his phone, my heart sank. I still went through with my plan, handing him the gift with shaking hands. His reaction at best was lukewarm. He grumbled congratulations before immediately launching into a long-winded discussion about an upcoming business trip to Japan. It pained me and made me angry at him, but then I was still giving him the benefit of the doubt because after all, he would need some time to digest and accept the news. A week later, the miscarriage happened. I was so devastated and needed Derek with me at that time more than ever. But he was in Japan for some project. When I called him and cried, he said he was in an important meeting and would call me back. He never did. 3 days later he came back to the house and barely talked about the issue. He patted me on the shoulder, stiffening his arm rather awkwardly, and said, "These things happen." And he really did leave me to grieve alone, more isolated than ever. I was devastated and full of anger. I told him that we needed to talk about our relationship, that things couldn't go on like this. He half-heartedly agreed, but every time I tried to bring it up over the next few months, he would find an excuse to avoid the conversation. He would suddenly remember an urgent email he had to send, or he would say he was too tired and we would talk tomorrow. But tomorrow never seemed to come. Things reached a critical juncture last week. It was Lily's 5th birthday, and Derek had promised he'd be there for her party. He'd even taken the day off work, a rare occurrence. Poor Lily was very excited. She'd been talking about it for weeks. She'd helped me with the whole unicorn-themed party plan, from picking out decorations to deciding on the cake flavor. She wouldn't stop saying it straight to everybody's face that her daddy was coming to see her blow out the candles. The day of the party, Derek got a call from the office. There was apparently some major client crisis that needed his attention. He went away despite protests from my side and Lily's wet pillow. Promising he would be back in time for the party, I watched Lily's face drop as her father drove away. It broke my heart. And the party began, and Derek still wasn't there. I had Lily asking me where Daddy was, and I had to watch her face fall every time the doorbell rang and it wasn't him. Our friends and family tried keeping her in high spirits, but there was nothing that could disguise the disappointment in her eyes. She just wouldn't take her candles seriously because she wanted to wait until Daddy came. Derek didn't come home until 2 hours after the party ended, and Lily was already in bed. He was trying to be on his best behavior, saying things would be okay and he would make this up to her, but I had had enough. I told him that this is not going anywhere and that our daughter deserved better. I deserved better. He turned defensive, saying I was being unreasonable, that he worked hard for us. The argument escalated, frustration and resentment built up over years coming to a head. In the end, he stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind him. It's been 3 days, and he hasn't returned home. He's not taking my calls, neither is he replying to my messages. I feel hurt, angry, and confused. I kept replaying our argument. I was thinking if I had been too harsh. And then I remember Lily's face, waiting for her dad, and I know something has to change. I love Derek. The guy I met at the music festival who used to surprise me with breakfast in bed and leave love notes in my lunch. I remember how he acted when Lily was born, how he would spend hours just watching her sleep. That man seems so far away now, replaced by someone I barely recognize anymore. I don't know what I must do. Part of me wants to fight for our marriage, to find a way back to the Derek I once fell in love with. But another part of me wonders if it's too late, if too much damage has been done. I worry what that is doing to Lily's psyche. She is starting to think that Dad not being around is normal, and that breaks my heart. Is it wrong to want more out of this marriage? Do I give him another chance, or is it time to go down the road of separation? But how do I even decide that? I just feel so lost and overwhelmed, got to have some advice on how to go about all this. How do I balance what is best for me, what is best for Lily, and the love I still feel for Derek despite everything? Would love any advice or similar experiences. Update 1: It's been 2 weeks and some since my first posted update, so I just wanted to update you on what's happened with us. First of all, I really thank each and every one of you for your guidance and support. All of your comments have given me the strength to confront this situation directly. So, the very next day after I made my post, Derek finally came home. He came in like everything shall be alright, as if nothing had ever happened, expecting everything to go back to the way it used to be. But not this time. I did not let it slide out of my hands like it had the last time. I called him and sat him down on the same old kitchen table. We had sat conversing with each other almost an entire day on lazy Sunday mornings, drinking coffee to go in for a deep, breathtakingly endearing emotional monologue upon the state of our marriage and our family. He was defensive at first, shrugged it off by saying that I was overreacting, and he was just doing everything for us. But then, as I laid out all the incidents, the missed birthday party, his reaction to my miscarriage, the constant absence, that I could see realization dawning on his face, did he finally listen to me after all these years? As I spoke, memories flooded back. I reminded him of the vows we'd made to each other when we got married, to be partners in everything. I told him that Lily had stopped asking me when he was coming home because she'd learned to expect his absence. I described how alone I felt, even when we were in the same room. To my surprise, Derek burst into tears. I witnessed Derek cry after many years because of Lily, the baby he never mentioned since her birth. He then opened up to me. He was hiding, he said. He realized that he was unable to bear the burden of being a husband and a father, so he decided to hide. And where better to dig than in his profession, where at least to him, he felt he had control. He had been anxious for the past year but was too ashamed to tell me or seek help. He even spoke of work pressure, he spoke of constantly being afraid of failing, and how it started to spill into every part of his life. He said that he knew he'd hurt us, But he didn't know how to stop. Even though I was relieved that he was finally opening up, I made it clear that his behavior really had actually hurt me and Lily quite deeply. I told him that although I understood he had difficulties, that did not mean he could take his frustration out on his family. The missed recitals, forgotten anniversaries, emotional distance, it had wreaked its toll on our family. I told him that I would give counseling a go, but at the same time told him that I wasn't convinced that there was anything at all that could possibly fix our marriage now. I explained that the advice I received on Reddit really helped me open my eyes to how I was deserving of better, and Lily deserves better. Fortunately, Derek gave in to counseling. We also found a couple relationship therapist and have booked in for a session next week. Derek also agreed to start individual therapy to work on his anxiety. We've had 3 counseling sessions so far, and emotionally speaking, it's been a real drain. Still, I feel we've begun to communicate honestly. Our therapist has shown us the patterns in our relationship that are unhealthy for us, and we are in the process of changing them. We're learning to express our needs more clearly and truly listen to each other. In fact, I think things are looking up a bit. Derek has been making far more effort to be with Lily. Last weekend, he even took the day off work, just so he could go with her to the zoo, something he's since gone, a couple of years ago. Lily was on cloud 9 and talked nonstop about the elephants and monkeys for days after. It did my heart good to see them laugh together. He's been home more, too. He's doing chores unprompted and actually having conversations with me. We started eating dinners together again as a family, and no one is allowed to use their phone at the dinner table. It's a very small thing, but it somehow seems major. But then, I still have trust issues. Neglect and unfulfilled promises for many years get etched in pretty deeply. For instance, last week Derek had to cancel our date night due to a work emergency, and all those old feelings of resentment came flooding back. We really talked it out afterward, but no matter what, when something like this happens, I always feel it's sort of a step backward. I'm just trying to live one day at a time. Sometimes I feel imbued with hope that we can straighten out our relationship, seeing glimpses of the old Derek with the ways he laughs at Lily's jokes or the way he brings me coffee in the morning, just the way I like it. Sometimes I wonder if I'm just setting myself up to be disappointed. The wound is still fresh, and there are moments when I'm not sure if it can heal. Lily, on the other hand, seems so much happier with him being more involved, so that encourages me to try harder for her, but I don't want to stay in an unhappy marriage for her sake, either. I want her to grow up seeing what a loving, respectful relationship looks like. Since now I have decided to give it 3 months for the same. If I don't see continuous improvement then, I'll really have to give separation a thought. It really is not an easy decision, but I understand I have to consider my welfare and my daughter's happiness. I'm focusing on taking care of myself and spending quality time with Lily. I've enrolled in a yoga class twice a week, which is working wonders for my general mental well-being. I also kind of rekindled some old friendships that have really helped me get through this. We've started a monthly girls' night, making it a moment of relaxation and a reminder of who I am beyond a wife and mother. I'm trying to prepare myself for all possible outcomes, whether that be rebuilding my marriage or starting a new chapter in my life. I've started putting some money aside in a separate account, just a few weeks back in case, and of course I've been looking at those career development courses. I'm seriously pondering on where I want to be professionally in the event that I find myself on my own. Thanks again to you all for the support. Your words really gave me the courage to stand up for myself and demand better. I'll update again when I have more news. Update 2: It's been close to 2 months since my last update. Things with Derek took a completely different turn from how I had expected, and I'm feeling more conflicted than ever. Things look promising, almost too good to be true, through the first month since my last update. Derek was attending counseling regularly and really placing importance on quality time with Lily and me. He was really being present in our relationship. He even dropped a business trip just not to miss Lily's school play. It was a little role. She was playing a tree, but having Derek there in the audience, grinning with paternal pride, was everything to both of us. Our relationship was slowly coming back together. We would even go on our date nights that were part of our making up for the past weeks, be it takeout and a movie at our house after Lily went to bed. Derek had been opening up more about his worries and sharing with anxiety, and I tried my best to be supportive without getting too involved. That all changed about 3 weeks ago, though. It was just a typical Tuesday evening. I was working with Lily on her homework when Derek came through the door early from work. I could tell, though, the moment he walked through that door, that something was amiss. His face had gone white, and he was shaking a little in his hands. He had just asked if we could talk after Lily went to bed. Those few hours were agonizing. I could barely concentrate on anything else since my brain was fraught with thousands of horrible possibilities. Was he sick? Had he lost his job? What he did tell me after we finally sat down and talked absolutely floored me. Now here's the rub. 2 years ago, When he was on a business trip in Chicago, Derek had a one-night stand with a colleague. Yes, that was just one time, and he had been in agony on the inside since then, which is why he had been so detached, he said. He said the woman had just left the company, and he added the stress of seeing her leave had brought all his guilt rushing back. I was simply devastated. Everything we went through seemed so pointless now. Betrayal, anger, and feeling extremely dumb for fighting for us was how I felt. The trust we had just begun to build was shattered to pieces in an instant. That night, I made him leave the house. I had to have space to take in what now seemed a new disclosure, to sort matters out, and to figure out what to do next. The last few weeks have been emotionally intensifying. I would one point be feeling angry, one moment sad, and one empty. One moment, I would be furiously scrubbing the house clean in an attempt to clean away my anger, and the next, I would be balled up on the couch with tears that would not stop. My thoughts keep winding back 2 years. Were there signals, and I missed them? I've had a few individual counseling sessions to cope with this revelation. The therapist has been helping me work through my feelings about this and guiding me on what I should seek in the future. She has encouraged me to take my time and not rush into any decisions. Lily has picked up on this. It kills me to see her confused and upset. She keeps asking when Daddy is coming home, and I don't know what to do. I just lied and said that Daddy and I need time apart in order for things to be figured out. I'm trying so that everything seems quite normal in front of her, but kids pick up on those things quite easily. She knows something is wrong. Derek had been very insistent on giving me space, but for his part, he had been apologizing through texts every single day and asking for one more chance. He says counseling made him realize that if we had a chance at really fixing our marriage, he needed to come clean. I mean, I appreciate his honesty, but a bigger part of me kind of feels like this is the final straw. I'm kind of torn on what to do next. On the one hand, Derek's infidelity feels like a betrayal that I can't deal with. I feel physically ill at the thought of him with another woman. I keep wondering if there were others, if our entire marriage has been a lie. On the other hand, I can't deny that he's really been trying to change lately. He's been the attentive husband and father I've been wanting for years. I always thought about the good times we had, the family we built, and I wonder if there is something that can be saved yet. I have been talking things over with my friends and family, and it seems we are not on a common denominator. My dearest friend believes his recent effort and honesty is reason for me to give Derek one last chance. She believes that while his admission hurts so much, it could also be an assertion that he is willing to establish the relationship on complete honesty. My sister, on the other hand, believes I should forget about him now while it is not too late. She thinks I deserve so much more than to have my life completely shattered by a person who, apparently, should protect me from such a kind of deceit more so that I was unwittingly thrown into a challenging situation that made me feel unwanted and insecure. I have only hinted to Derek that I need more time. I have decided to take a week off from work and visit my sister in another state. I need to clear my mind and think about what I really want for myself, but more so, for Lily. I know tough decisions are out there waiting, but I have to try to be strong for the sake of my daughter. I'm terrified of the future, but also starting to consider it my first opportunity for real selfishness, first for my happiness and well-being. What form that may take, whether Derek is a part of that, I'm not so sure right now. I've started journaling, sorting through my feelings, trying to imagine the kind of life I want in the coming years. I'll update again once I've made a decision. Thank you, everybody, for your continued support in these trying times. Your advice and encouragements have been the only lifesavers for me. Update 3. It's almost 1 month since my last update, and finally, decisions were made. After residing with my sister for almost a week, finally, I came back home knowing what I wanted for myself and Lily. I decided to separate from him and get a divorce. It was not an easy call, but finally, in much deliberation, I thought I could never get over Derek's infidelity. The trust was broken, and I didn't think I wanted to spend the rest of my life unsure that it wouldn't happen again. It was that week away where I put a lot of thought into what I wanted from the relationship and what sort of example I wanted to set for Lily. I was being dishonest to myself and really not fair to the little girl to stay in a marriage where I felt anxious and mistrustful daily. When I told Derek, he was very upset but not surprised. He said he understood that he would have to respect my wishes. We agreed to try and keep things amicable for Lily's sake. It was a hard conversation, filled with tears on both sides, but I felt a sense of relief after it was done. We've begun the divorce proceedings, and matters seem to be taking a rather amicable route. We are in mediation, ironing out custody arrangements and division of assets. We have agreed on joint custody of Lily, with me as primary physical custodian. Derek will get her every other weekend and one evening a week to dinner. The hardest thing I have ever had to do in my life was telling Lily about the divorce. We sat her down and explained as kindly as we knew how that mommy and daddy weren't going to be living together any longer, but that we both loved her very much and that wouldn't change. At first, she was so upset, confused, and first thing asked with big, wet eyes if it was her fault. In fact, it broke my heart when she said that. We told her that it absolutely had nothing to do with her. Sometimes the grown-ups just can't be together anymore, even if they care about each other. I've started looking for a new place to live, somewhere closer to my parents. They have been so supportive through everything, and I feel that having them close would be good for both Lily and me. I have found the cutest little house with a backyard where she can play. We are moving in next month. Much to my surprise, I'm more positive than I thought I would be. Already, an enormous feeling of relief at having made the decision comes from the knowledge that I am now back in the driving seat of my life. I start to rediscover myself, areas that I had left undiscovered during those years of struggling within my marriage. I have started to take interest in painting and find it a very therapeutic hobby. I have also begun to broach the subject of changing my career, which for so long I have avoided due to the instability in my personal life. We are learning to co-parent with those tools. That said, we may not always have an easy time, but we're both committed to putting Lily first. He's keeping up with his therapy, which I'm glad about. I know our marriage didn't work out, but I hope he continues to work on himself for Lily's sake. Hindsight suggests the marriage had started coming apart at the seams long before the moment the affair took place. We stopped talking, we stopped making each other's needs high on our list of priorities. It's sad it has to come to this, but if anything, I believe it's all for the best. I know this journey's going to be rough at times as I move through single motherhood, trying to rebuild what I can of my life. It feels exciting about the future for the first time in a long time. So, forward to the healing, being a good mom to Lily, and finding out who I am outside of being a wife. Thank you everybody for supporting me during this course. Your advice and words of encouragement had meant a lot to me. Although it's the end of my marriage, it feels like the beginning of life and I'm game for anything coming my way.